So I took that, and now I'm on a mission to find the rest of the people in the world like I used to be. I want to help them have better connections, because really, we all win when we have better interactions. But there's a lot of us that don't know how. So that's basically my life in a nutshell.
Welcome to New World Normal, the podcast. I am Debbie Harrell, and every week I am talking with people who are disrupting norms and working to create a more inclusive and holistic society. These people are using their sphere of influence, no matter how large or small, to positively impact the world around them. We'll be sharing stories of resilience and hope. We'll talk about the issues that are affecting us all, from the environment, human rights, social issues, criminal justice, education. We'll talk about wellness and food, from how it's cultivated and distributed to how it's prepared and consumed. Basically, we're going to talk about all the systems in our society that aren't necessarily working for the benefit of the many. We'll strategize and collaborate on how we as a collective can intentionally make better choices every day that will lead to positive changes in the world around us. If that sounds good to you, stick around and have a listen. And by all means, click like or follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast source. Hello, and welcome back to the New World Normal podcast. Today, I'm talking to Craig Gustafson. Craig is a certified body language trainer on a mission to help everyone he can escape their social awkwardness. As a 26-year submarine veteran and a self-described recovering social misfit, he understands what it takes to learn the science of social interaction. His true passion is helping young adults, especially those who may identify as neurodiverse, learn how to create better connections with the people in their lives. He uses science-based strategies to teach the invisible but very real science of body language. I hope you enjoy listening as we chat about making connections with people we might not agree with, entrepreneurship during a pandemic, and making the world a better place.
So I was having a conversation with my buddies at the gym, which is what I did before this. And they're like, so who is this woman? I said, well, she's someone that I met online basically a couple of years ago now. We went through a coaching program and we became friendly. I said, in a lot of ways, we're exactly the same. And in a lot of ways, we couldn't be more different. I said, but we accept that about each other and we're friends.
Yes.
But not everyone gets that.
No, it's interesting that you bring that up right away, because that is one of the things that I hope to maintain with this platform, is to highlight the ways that we are alike, because everyone tries to make us believe that we're so different. But I think there are so many areas that we overlap and we all want the same things. So,
I mean, as a retired military person for 26 years, my life experience could not be more different than yours living on an island in California.
As a single mom, right? Very different.
But we don't have to agree about everything to be friends.
No.
And someone was like, well, how can you be friends with this person? I said, I love this community that we were both part of a lot.
Well, and we respect the path that we're both on, and we recognize that we're in it from a heart-centered place. We both want to do good in the world. You want to help your clients escape awkwardness. I want to show people that we're more alike. And a lot of us are trying to make the world a better place.
A lot of us are looking for great people just to pull for. I mean, a lot of us are just looking for people that we respect and want to pull for because they are do-gooders. The world needs so much more of that.
I agree. And I was talking to a friend of mine this morning about the fact that I started the podcast and how, if nothing else comes of this, how cathartic it has been to talk to people who are doing good work and out in the world doing good things. And the people that I've talked to are just so inspirational. And it takes away some of that overwhelm, how every day we're like, oh my gosh, could things get more wrong? Could we get more divided? And then you talk to a few people that are really doing work to try and bring us together and find better ways of doing things.
I was a lot happier since I said to hell with it. I shut the news off, and
that does help too.
And I decided that my world is just a happier place without the divisiveness that I see online or on television. I just don't pay attention to it anymore. I look for people doing good things and I try and be helpful. That's all I want.
That's awesome. And I agree. The way I have changed how I use my social media, not just from the news aspect of it, but the fact that we're both new entrepreneurs. And when you start changing the way you're interacting with people on your social media experience completely changes. And it feels a lot better and a lot less overwhelming.
I'm trying to find people that are do-gooders.
And I was listening to a book last night that you would probably enjoy. Oh, of course, I just put my phone out of the way because working on my interview skills, I came across this book. One moment, please. We Need to Talk by Celeste Headley. She's been on radio for years and about having conversations that could be difficult or with people that might not have the same viewpoints as you. And I think everybody alive today should read that book because we all need to be able to have conversations with each other. And nobody is doing that. Everyone's talking at each other and not listening to one another. And
not everybody. You're starting a movement.
We are trying, right? I think there's a lot of
we
us.
are not trying. We are doing.
We're doing. Thank you. Good reframe. Oh yeah. See, this conversation's already encouraging and hopeful.
Well, I mean, I did that virtual event not that long ago where I did a keynote speech, and they went out of their way to invite people like me who socially are very different than the people that were running the organization. And they went out of their way to say that if we want better in the world, we have to do better and be those agents of change. Otherwise, we can't demand it of anybody else. We owe it to ourselves and to the people around us to be the agents of change that we want to see in the world. And it sucked me right in. I wanted to participate, and it didn't directly bring me any business, but it's brought me opportunities to connect and provide value where I otherwise never would have found people. I'm getting ready to do an 1.5-hour workshop for young teens who are struggling to get out of trouble and are having a hard time understanding that what they see on social media is not real. And by trying to emulate it, they have landed themselves in trouble. They don't understand that that's not actually how the world works. That's what someone has curated for them. So by offering my time to actually talk to them about what I do and help them interact better with people that are not like them, who don't look like them, who don't think like them, but find ways to have better conversations by having a blueprint for a conversation.
And I'm going to stop you there for a second because we just jumped right into the conversation and I haven't even introduced you. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your organization and what its mission is?
Okay. My name is Craig Gustafson. I am the owner of a little company I started myself that is named Escaping Social Awkwardness, which is my mission in life. So I am one of these people. I grew up in a military home, so I moved constantly. I learned to get along with people very quickly, but I never really learned to connect with people. I was always awkward in groups. I didn't have any problem with public speaking. I don't have a problem getting up in front of people, but I didn't read groups and group dynamics well. And as someone who's socially awkward, I did what any socially awkward person like myself would do. I went and joined the military myself. So I spent 26 years as a submariner. Those crazy people that hide from the world living underwater for months. I really struggled when I retired from the service and I left the regimented society of the military. Someone asked me, so really, what was it like for you? And I told them, have you ever walked into class 5 minutes late? Especially a class that is something that you didn't enjoy to begin with. Make it algebra, make it chemistry, right? And the lesson has already started. And you spend the rest of the class trying to figure out what you missed and how to get the rest of the conversation that happens while you're there. That was me socially until I was 50 years old. And then I discovered an outfit that's actually a human behavior research lab. And they had a class called People School, which was tailor-made for social misfits like myself. So I took the class, I loved it. And I asked them, hey, do you have a class that's advanced from here that I could actually learn to teach your material and be licensed to do that? And they said, yes. So I took that. And now I'm on a mission to find the rest of the people in the world like I used to be. I want to help them have better connections because really, we all win when we have better interactions. But there's a lot of us that don't know how. So that's basically my life in a nutshell.
I think that's awesome. And I'm fascinated that there's actually something called People School because I think more people struggle with those issues, then they realize that they struggle, but they don't realize that there are other people out there struggling with it also, or other people are better at faking it. Like it appears that they've got it all together and they don't feel awkward, but inside,
I didn't realize what a train wreck I was until I was working for a company who I won't name, but they had the most amazing culture and they were really committed to self-improvement with their employees within the organization. And they had the mindset that they were willing to pay for classes for you for self-improvement. And some of the people were like, why are you going to spend all that money? People are going to learn all these skills and then they're going to leave. And the attitude of the company, God bless them, was that what if we don't spend the money and they stay?
And they're miserable. And we're all miserable.
And they're horrible employees, right? So I was actually working on curriculum for the company, putting together a training program for young people that they wanted to retain and someday be the company leaders. And I was actually going into Udemy, which is a business training website, and finding classes. And I stumbled upon the Science of People there. After I had taken a DISC survey, a personality survey, where I realized that, of course, as a bubblehead, someone who used to live in a little tube, I was very comfortable with my own message and how I felt in life, but I didn't make good social connections. And after I took the survey and discovered just what a train wreck I was, I asked myself, okay, now I have this information. What do I do with it? And as everything else in life is, the key to getting good answers is to ask better questions. So once I had this realization and I started looking for what can I do to be better socially, to interact with people and understand social conscripts better, recognizing when I say something that annoyed somebody or offended somebody. In my old life, I just didn't care. But now I did. And, I was newly remarried at that point. And, I didn't want to let this amazing human slip away from me because I was a social train wreck. So I went out of my way to find answers to become better at this. And okay, what do you want to say? Just human better?
Human better.
Yeah. That's really what it comes down to, right? Is not being a crappy human.
Well, you're touching on something that I believe to be true, and that we all want to do better in the world. We all want things to be better, like different social structures or services or ways our society works. We want things to be better. But the reality is it all really starts with us and the connections we're making and the way we're able to connect and influence the people in our lives. So it does really start with us and doing the work on ourselves. And it may have started from a very small seed of you wanting to maintain a relationship with your new wife, but everybody in your sphere is going to benefit from Craig working on Craig. And then taking it the next step, Craig is now helping other people work on themselves.
And the two groups of people that I'm concentrating on really are young people, because I really think that with anti-social media, they've really gotten the short end of the stick.
Anti-social media. I heard that. That's a good one.
Well, I mean, really, when is it going to happen that people realize that what they see online really isn't real and it's put together for them, and what they see is based on what they've already seen that they either agreed or liked, and not based on what reality is? Some of these young people actually believe that these people online that they meet are actually their friends, but they're not people that you can call when something bad happens. So then young people feel socially isolated because they don't have people in their lives that they actually can lean on. And then they feel even more isolated because they're actually alone.
That's an excellent point.
Not only that, but they don't actually learn how to have conversations and deal with people because they don't deal with people. Now, I told you this story, but we'll bear it out here. And it was in my keynote. At the end of the year last year, when kids actually got to go back to school in California, there was a teacher who actually ended class 10 minutes early. She said, okay, put away your phones, your tablets, your computers. You're surrounded with people that you haven't seen in at least a year. Have a conversation. And some of them physically were not able to do it. That troubles me.
It is troubling. We are way too addicted to our gadgets and gizmos and screens.
And it's not the same as having a conversation with somebody.
It's not. And it's a skill that we are all losing.
Well, I mean, only half of our message comes from the words that we use. We spend a lot of time writing emails and texts and all of these things that we care about the messaging. But no one actually teaches us how to have a good interaction with another person.
That is a good point.
It's my mission.
It is your mission. So how are you doing it? How's it going?
It's building slowly, but it is beginning to build momentum. I have a conversation with my local Kiwanis Club. I'm doing a keynote presentation for them this coming week. And they said, what's it about? And I said, the power of body language. And they're like, what? I said, well, like we just discussed, only half of our message comes from the words we use. And they said, well, we get that, but why are you having a conversation with us? I said, because your organization is a gateway to young people. Your stated mission is to help young people and organizations that young people are in. I figured it was a good place to go and talk to someone who would know how to get me in contact with someone. Because let's face it, you can't just walk up to school and say, hey, I have this great thing I'd like to talk to you about.
Right.
You'll either get escorted off or arrested for being someplace you're not supposed to be. It's not like people just invite you in and they don't know who you are.
For sure.
But there's PTA members there. There's board members at the local university that are there. There's parents there. There's other concerned citizens there that are interested in supporting young people in my community. And they are the people that I really want to help most. And people are like, why? Well, I have an answer for that. When I was in the service, the people that I connected with the most were the young people learning the craft and learning how to get along and live life in the military, because it's very different than society. And the more socially disenfranchised or militarily disenfranchised people were, the more I connected with. So I built my professional reputation around being helpful to other people. Obviously, I had to do my job, but I had to spend time with these young people and teach them the craft.
So you were connecting with the people that were learning how to adjust to connecting in a military style.
Absolutely.
Because I would think it would be so different because the responses and interactions are more scripted and you know more what to expect.
Well, it's really a matter of convincing people that you have a genuine interest in them succeeding. And you have to. Eventually, you are going to have to put your life in the hands of these people. So you might as well teach them to do it the right way or the way that you want the first time, rather than just trying to figure it out as they go.
I read that somewhere that I don't remember which branch of the military it was, but they say that you have to have an affection for the people that you're leading. If you don't have an affection for them, you shouldn't, because like you said, you're putting your lives in each other's hands.
Yeah, there were people on there that I didn't like personally, but I got along with well professionally. We had different interests, but you're stuck with each other. You have two choices. You can get along or you can be miserable. Being miserable for 90 days at a time underwater.
I was going to say, especially in a submarine assignment would be definitely more inclined to get along with the people around you.
Well, and the difference when you're a submariner is that, once we shut all the doors and you go underwater, it's not like one of you comes up and not everybody else. What happens to one of us happens to all of us. And there are some pretty funny, really not quite right social scripts.
I was going to say I'm sure it's not funny. My anxiety is already ramping up just the thought of being in a submarine.
Well, it's something that one of the guys in one of the Twisted Veterans things posted the other day that I laughed. It's about the law of conservation of happiness. Okay. And it's kind of twisted, but happiness is kind of like energy. Once you shut the doors, happiness can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be stolen from one human by another. So now you get submariners, right? We're just not quite right.
You got to fill the submarine up with happiness before you close the door. So what are some strategies or easy things that you can advise our listeners that are ways that they can connect better with the people in their lives?
Someone said something to me that really took me and kind of shook me a little bit. The key to being interesting is to be interested. And the light comes on, right?
Right.
in order for me to have a good conversation with you, I have to actually be interested in what you have to say and be interested in you.
It definitely helps the conversation to flow when you're able to ask sincere questions of the person.
But here's the thing. A lot of the time when we go to meetings or events, we get stuck in social scripting. No one really wants to talk about traffic and the weather. Why do we do it?
Oh, why do we do it?
Because it's easy and we don't have to think. That's actually why. It's just a canned response.
And it's safe. I don't remember listening to a podcast about now that more people were starting to go out after the quarantining, when we were going back out into the world and back into social situations and trying not to go right back to those conversations of traffic and weather and trying to have more meaningful conversations. Do you think that's happening? Do you see that happening in your circles?
It takes effort. Hey, here you go. Ask someone, hey, what amazing thing happened to you today?
Yeah.
And their brain will actually light up, right?
Yeah, something different.
You didn't ask them the bad thing that happened today. You ask them what great thing happened to you today. Are you working on anything interesting? And people will light up.
My least favorite cocktail party question is, so what do you do for a living? Come on, can't we think of something else?
What interesting thing about you do most people not know?
No, yeah. Something other than what they do for work, because most people, unfortunately, don't like their jobs.
Hey, tell me about yourself. That's not asking about what do you do. They may get there. Hopefully it's something that they like, but tell me about your pet project. But when you say that to someone, you can literally watch their face light up like someone is interested about this thing that I love. Tell me more. Tell me more. What about it do you like so much? You've just had a 15-minute conversation with someone who didn't have to say a word, but they feel fantastic.
Because you're sincerely interested in them and they got to talk about something that they are really enjoying.
Which is great for the person listening, right?
Uh-huh.
No one wants to hear about our toothache and the things that we hate in our life. Talk about something happy.
I love the idea of flipping the script and coming up with better questions for all occasions. Really, I even find myself, because I was socially awkward, social misfit, you might say. So out in public, grocery stores and all that, I'm usually, but I don't know if it was the pandemic or the path of personal development I've been on this past couple of years, but I am the person that loves to chat in the line at the grocery store now. And so I like the idea of asking different questions and interacting in different ways.
Yeah. My wife had a saying the other day that I'm kind of like the person in church, who sings badly, but with great enthusiasm. Don't get me started. Just because I can't sing doesn't mean that I won't sing.
And she should, especially in church.
Yeah.
But I was just reading something about the vagal nerve and our regulating our nervous system, and play is of course one way, but an easy way for us to have the same experience of play is to sing. So like singing in the shower, or singing in the car, or singing in your house, depending on who's there. But, or who cares who's there, because it's doing something good for me.
Some people get paid to sing. People would probably pay me not to sing.
But when you're alone, do you sing?
Oh, I love music.
In your car, right? So
constantly.
Right?
I'm sure.
And I bet you sound
I'm
amazing.
sure I've sat in traffic and people have looked and said, what is up with the idiot sitting next to me? And I just don't care.
Is someone stepping on a cat? No, I feel the same way, but it feels good. Whether we're doing it well or not, it still feels good. And now learning that it's actually benefiting my nervous system, it's like, hey, I'm going to do that more. Well,
I love golf. But it's one of those things that I'm never going to be expert at it, but that doesn't keep me from having fun doing it.
That's good.
The fun of doing it is the whole point. Just like singing, just like a lot of things. I read a book that I think the title of it is Sometimes It's Good to Suck at Something.
We're never going to learn and grow if we don't fail on occasion.
And sometimes it just the idea of going and doing something that is different that you enjoy. It doesn't really matter that you're good at it. It matters that you like it. We all do enough things in our life that we don't like that you have to grab opportunities where you can.
This is true. Failing forward, learning and growing, it's all part of the process.
Well, it's a good thing that we learned to walk when we're very little, right? Because think about it. A lot of people that they would just decide that this isn't for me. I suck at this. I'm not going to do it. When you're young, you like everyone else is doing it. Darn it, I have to figure this out.
And I'm going to figure that out. Interesting.
I missed that part. I missed that part of my children's life. I wasn't home.
Oh,
Well, I mean, that's part of life in the military, right?
Right.
It's not the leaving home, because that sucks. Missed birthdays, missed holidays, missed life moments, missed world. Because when I was a young person, there wasn't the internet, and you didn't get all of that while you were gone. When you were gone, you were just gone. But there was something about doing something that you believed was bigger than you that mattered. It was my honor to do it. And it was challenging. It was fulfilling. And it made lifelong friendships.
I was going to say the camaraderie and the community.
When you and I were doing Kathy's thing, and she asked us, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to reach out to a few people that you think a lot of. And I want you to ask them, what would they come to you for? If they needed something and you were the person that could provide it to them, what would you do? And of course, me being me, and I don't do anything halfway, I didn't ask 5 or 10 people. I asked everybody that I knew on FaceCrack at one time.
Oh my gosh, you're brave.
I put it out to 750 people at one time. And it's interesting because my friends and family were smart enough to duck and hide. No part of that conversation. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? But I heard from people that I hadn't physically spoken to in 20 years. And invariably, they came to me and said, I don't know the exact answer to your question, but you need to find a way to coach, and you need to find a way to coach young people because you've always connected with them.
Look at that.
So here I am.
And that's one thing I'll say, because that totally speaks to your character. Being able to put that question on your Facebook page is so vulnerable and brave in a way that a lot of people aren't able to.
I figured I'd get an honest answer for people. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with one of the people afterwards, and he said, we loved you because you didn't play favorite. I hated people that played favorites and, the person who got the good deal and this and that.
It's frustrating.
And and they were right. I didn't like being that guy.
So your friends told you should coach, and now you're coaching and you want to work with young people. At one point, and I could be wrong, I thought you were working with, I know you're working with social misfits and awkward people, but are you working with neurodiverse individuals?
My favorite client right now is actually a young person who's a senior in high school who has Asperger's. And it's a challenge for both of us. And when I sat down to do this with him and his family, I said, I don't know how long this is going to take. I said, but I'm going to charge you a flat rate. And we're done when he says we're done. So I've actually had to take this curriculum that I have and change it again, and change it a third time to make it something that was something that made sense and helped him. Because, I would like to make a great living at this, but one of the great things about being retired military is my basic necessities in life are already taken care of. And I really want to find ways to be helpful. But if I can help this one person, what I said to his parents was, when we figure this out, I'm certain you are not the only people in our community that have this struggle. And his mom broke out in tears. I am absolutely dedicated to helping you figure this out.
And what a gift that the path that you've taken in life gives you the opportunity to come from a place of service, and we're going to figure this out. And the other people in your community are going to benefit, but also the rise of children being diagnosed with autism, your curriculum and the tweaks that you're making, if other people can learn from it, I just think more and more people are going to benefit from what you're starting.
Well, I figure that I'm probably somewhere out on the spectrum myself. I have family members who are bipolar. I have family members who have Asperger's, and all of these things are genetic. They run in families. And of course, I'm now in my mid-50s. When I was a kid, it wasn't something that anybody really talked about, or they knew to screen for, or how to help people. And maybe that's part of why I was always a little socially awkward and didn't fit in and didn't read people well. But, the great thing about nonverbal communication and body language is it's a science like any other. I'm never going to be, one of my favorite examples is Albert Einstein, because my favorite class in high school was physics. I was never going to be a physicist, but I loved knowing how things worked. All of that stuff was cool to me. So I'm never going to be Albert Einstein with physics, but I can at least learn enough about it to be able to have a conversation. Body language and nonverbal communication are the same. If you're willing to take the time, you may never be expert. You're not going to be that person who walks in a room and everybody wants to know who they are because they exude this natural charisma. But you can at least learn how to have positive experiences with the people that you interact with all the time. In my case, I learned how not to suck.
Well, I think a big part of it is recognizing cues that other people might be giving.
Well, this young man that I'm spending time with, he sees the cues. The problem he has is understanding or knowing what to do with it.
Okay.
Like he knows that he made his mom mad. He recognizes that facial expression. But how to have a conversation with his mom while she's angry? Hey, mom, I wasn't thinking, or I didn't mean to upset you. Let's talk about this and figure out a way to have a better understanding so this doesn't happen again. How fabulous for both of them, right?
I imagine that would be huge for both of them.
So if you can be an agent of change or an agent to help someone else just have a happier life, that's worth a ton.
Well, speaking of agents of change, the new world normal is about questioning our societal norms, disrupting them, reframing them. What are some societal norms that you would like to disrupt?
I'd like to see people getting back to having empathy for each other. I think that's really what in this society where we spend so much time buried in politics and all of the craziness in the world, these people retain power by keeping us at each other or not agreeing with each other. In reality, 85% of all the problems out there, we agree on. Yet they find a way to get us focused on the 15% that we're never going to agree on anyway. So rather than just being angry about it all the time, why can't we find something that we actually agree on and need to fix and be agents of change to get together and fix that thing? Because A, that thing will be fixed, and B, now we have a little more trust in each other and we can move on to the next problem rather than just being angry and getting nothing done while the world goes to hell in a handbasket around us.
Right. Or shouting our opinion on why we're right, as opposed to just taking a minute to listen, be empathetic, try to see it from the other person's point of view, and find that common ground.
Let's find a way to deal with the problem, not how we're both impacted by the problem or feel about the problem, because then we get nothing done. Okay, I can agree with you that this thing sucks, but being angry about it doesn't do anything to solve the problem.
Right. Talk about solutions.
There are some idioms in the military. One of them is never be the senior person who knows about a problem. Number one, on a submarine, if a fire breaks out, before you try and fight the fire, your first obligation is to scream and make all the noise that you can and let everybody know that there's a fire. Because until you tell everybody, you're on your own and you're not getting any help. But everybody else's life is at risk from this fire. It's similar.
It's such a good analogy now that you say it that way, because I say all the time, we're all in this together. This life, this world, we're all living together.
We might as well try and make the experience as good for ourselves and everybody as we can.
Right.
If I make it better for you, I still benefit.
Exactly. And likewise, the reciprocal is the same.
I don't understand why people have such a hard time with that, except that they are so committed to their thing.
Well, and also a lot of it is manufactured. And a lot of people don't realize that whether it's the algorithm, the powers that be, they benefit from keeping us in turmoil and at each other's throats. And
a lot of Facebook engineers actually quit and they've started a new society. Have you ever seen The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
Okay, so Facebook literally was set up to keep us engaged and take our time, which is how Facebook makes its money. Its algorithm sets you up with things that you've either agreed with or not agreed with, but they've taken your time.
So
and
it
they
keeps
feed
you down,
more
going
of that.
down the rabbit hole. Yep.
So if you have an opinion about one issue and I have an opposite opinion about the same issue, neither one of us is going to see the same news.
Nope. And that's true. Even Google searches, and that's all throughout your internet experience.
I mean, they have literally set up in little groups and separated us to where we're victims of our own confirmation bias. We literally go looking for reasons to agree with opinions that we already hold.
And we reject things that counter it. So it's quite a conundrum.
And we become so emotionally attached to them that even when someone shows us that this thing that we believed wasn't the truth, we refuse to believe it.
It's crazy, right?
But that's how Facebook and these other things are actually set up. So, I mean, and all of this dopamine, it's nice, but it's kind of like cotton candy. You and I probably both like cotton candy, right? But there isn't any nutrition there. You can't survive on it.
No. I'm sure I tried at one time in my life.
I would love to be able to, survive on chocolate, but it's not a viable thing. But that's actually how Facebook and a lot of these social constructs are set up and how they keep our attention.
And that's one way, if I have friends that I know I don't agree with, if I could just get them to admit that there's no way that they know that their news source is 100% correct. Just like I can readily admit that there's no way for me to know that my news source is 100% correct. Because everything's skewed. Everywhere you look, it's all skewed.
If you have 5 people see the same traffic accident, they all saw someone different and they were there. Part of it is perspective, right?
It is. And our life experiences. And I'm just going to say, we're all in this together and we all need to get through it together. So we need to figure out how to communicate.
Like I said, you and I have been friends for a couple of years, and there are things that we absolutely agree on and things that we absolutely do not agree on, yet we're friends. I actually looked forward to having this conversation with you today.
Me too.
Because we are friends. It's all of these things that shape us into who we are.
Uh-huh. And I sincerely admire the work that you're doing. And I know that it comes from a good place and you want to do good.
No, you're a fabulous human. But I've seen, but most people that would listen to this dialogue have no idea the things that we struggled with a year and a half ago, trying to figure out who we are and what do we want to go and do. The world just changed. And what I was doing before isn't going to work again. So now what do I do with that? How do I find a positive experience?
Right. It was a meaningful experience and a unique one. Sure, there have been people for years and years, for decades and decades, who decided to become an entrepreneur. But the fact that we did it in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, when politically our societies are so divided and arguing and there's so much turmoil, like we were in that class together during the George Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
All of that craziness. And just thinking about that, what a unique experience we had during that. And the fact that we are so different gave it a different perspective and helped us grow more, I believe.
Well, we were willing to actually sit down and have a difficult conversation about it so that we both felt seen and heard. We didn't necessarily agree, but we both felt seen and heard. And from there, we built a bond.
And now
that's really what it's about.
It is. And now we're going to go make the world a better place. Speaking of being seen and heard, where can our listeners connect with you?
My website is escapingsocialawkwardness.com.
Love it.
And I'm getting ready to go live with a Facebook group where I'm just going to invite people to come and interact with me. And the worst thing that will happen is nothing. And the best thing that will happen is that all of us get a chuckle and get to learn something. I just like interacting with people and different perspectives. So if I can find if you know someone who identifies with what I'm up to and you think I may be of help, please reach out to me.
I will. I will definitely send them your way, and I will put all of your other contact information in the show notes. And thank you so much for talking with me today.
It is always good to have an opportunity to hang out with a friend.
Awesome.
I will look forward to opportunities to connect with you in the future.
For sure. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our show. If you enjoyed what you heard,
feel free to subscribe and leave us a review. If you didn't enjoy what you heard, reach out to us. Let us know how we can make it better. This show is really about all of us, not just me and my guests, but how can we all make this world a little better? If you'd like to connect with us in other ways, be sure to check out our Instagram account. We also have a free Facebook community that participates in monthly get-togethers, and we work through challenges and have meaningful conversations about important topics, all in a space that is safe, supportive, and encouraging. So join us. And if you'd like to show us more support, you can check out our intentional apparel shop online, New World Intentions. You'll find t-shirts, hats, totes, all with positive messaging to help you move mindfully through your day and help create that new world normal. I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. And since this episode is being released the same week as Thanksgiving, I'm going to leave you with the New World Normal Holiday Challenge. Ask better questions. Make an effort to build better connections with people in your lives, even those family members you don't agree with. See if you can have conversations where you both feel seen and heard. Because the truth really is, we all win when we have good social interactions, and real improvement is possible if you're just willing to try.